The first dive we will do, we will go on Siaba Besar. So Siaba Besar is a dive site that is very easy. So it's a perfect first dive. Siaba Besar is this big island that we have here. Siaba is the name and Besar means big, basically. On the other side of the channel, we have Siaba Kecil, and Kecil meaning small. Basically, it's a big island that have on the west side a very shallow top reef that goes out for maybe 100-150 meters out. So we have the island here with a mangrove forest, and then we have a very shallow top reef all around the island, okay? In this shallow top reef, we have a protected area. Okay, it's considered like a bay, protected bay. So the shallow top reef is around level of the surface, or depending on the tide, maybe 1 or 2 meters underneath the surface. The protected bay goes from a shallow 2 meters down to 8, 10, 12, and then at 12 meters it drops down into the channel that's here and goes from 15 meters down to 22 meters. After that it's a very gentle slope. Okay? So the composition of this protected area is mainly considered like sandy bottom. Okay? As we go towards the channel, we come across a very nice coral garden. The highest spot of this coral garden is 5 meters from the surface. Actually, depending on the tide, maybe 4. Okay? All the coral reef that's around it is around 12 meters. And then the sloping reef that goes from 15 to 22 is the same kind of coral we have here. The coral we have here is mainly staghorn coral, like branching coral, or we have cabbage coral. So cabbage like lettuce or roses. I prefer to say roses, it's a bit more pretty. So when you look from the top, it looks like a bed of roses, really nice. Okay? As we explore this coral garden, we'll see many marine life. The main thing that we see here is like a sanctuary for green sea turtles. Turtle City, some people call this place like this, Turtle City, because all these turtles that like to hang out around here, we have them everywhere in this area. Basically their shell looks very likely like the coral that's around it, so they can hide, and they love this place probably because they're like hiding in there. And they use the coral to scratch the shell to get it clean. All the small fish are cleaning the shell, like massage, like a spa center. So we have many of those in this area that we're gonna explore. We usually finish the dive either close to the seamount here, either we go along the shallow part here to end the dive here.
did you notice? I was good this time here, like that. They were baby bumphead parrotfish. We just started to get them on the site. They're juveniles. So the bumpheads, because they're huge, aren't they? Are green. The babies are really dark green, and they're the juvenile bumphead parrotfish. They've only just appeared here about a few weeks ago. It's very interesting. Dive briefing. It's about to rain.
What we will do will be on the dive site, but it's called Mawan. So Mawan in the local language actually means like pretty. This is like a very pretty island, so we can understand why they named it like this. Okay. So it is one of the places in Komodo National Park where it's possible to see some manta rays. Why is that? It's because on this dive site we have what we call cleaning stations. So cleaning stations are basically a place where big fish and manta rays or sharks, things like that, they come to get cleaned by the smaller fish. So it's something that is quite important for some of the marine life. So it's one of the reasons why they come here. So we have a couple of places here on this dive site where they come and hover around or just stay there and get all the small fish to work.
Now what's good about Mawan, it's an ever-changing dive site. So to begin with, in this area you've got a very shallow plateau about maybe 4 to 10 meters, which eventually goes down to a sloping reef. And eventually what happens is you hit a huge coral bowl area. Now inside the coral bowl and on the top of the coral bowl, you've got a couple of cleaning stations for the manta rays. Then eventually you've got another plateau here a little bit deeper, and then eventually a sloping reef starts, and after the sloping reef you've got a sandy area, you've got gravel, and you've got another reef going around the outside of the, around to the other side of the island. So basically it's an ever-changing dive site. It changes the topography all the time depending on how deep you go, and of course which direction you go as well.
So one of the classic plans we do is normally to start close to this rubble bowl here, where we have in the shallow one of the cleaning stations for the manta rays and bigger animals. The plan is to start usually from here, check out this area to see if we have some manta rays, enjoy the show. If they're getting cleaned, they will go in circles and we just stay low and enjoy the show. And at some point we will go over the plateau here at around 10 meters usually, and then head to the sloping reef where we can go a little bit deeper depending on your certification, usually not deeper than 18 meters. And then we will head to the sandy slope where we end up the dive doing some kind of zigzag dive towards the shallow area where we have another cleaning station here, and we can enjoy the manta rays for the safety stop.
Now, mantas, guys, so it's usually on a falling tide. The mantas can be anywhere. Sometimes you'll find the mantas at the very end, and sometimes you'll find the mantas on the gravel slope. Best case scenario, if we're lucky, the mantas will be straight away in the coral bowl area, but yesterday we didn't have so much manta action. We had more of the manta action at the end of the dive set, which was also a falling tide yesterday. So we'll see what happens basically. However, guys, it can be quite a quick journey to get to the end of the dive site, and sometimes what happens when you get here, the main current starts pushing you back. So what happens, guys, we'll be going with the current, and eventually towards the end of the dive set here you might find a current pushing you back. So what we usually do, if that's the case, we'll spend a bit of time in the sandy area. We've got various coral structures going right down to 24 meters, and what we'll do is a bit of a zigzag dive to finish the dive. We've got some really cool things to see in the sand, in all the soft corals as well, and also in the various coral structures. Down deeper, it's very common to see white-tipped reef sharks resting in the sand, and also in this area too, look out for large barracuda, nudibranchs, shrimps, lionfish, stingrays as well. And of course, look in the blue as well, many cool things can pass by. Often you can see black-tipped reef sharks cruising on the very, very shallow reef, okay? In this area here, you get a lot of things basically like clown triggerfish, angelfish, surgeonfish, unicorn fish, triggerfish as well of different kinds as well. Okay, down the sloping reef, guys, we probably won't go this way too much, because if we go try and access the sloping reef, it's going to be very, very difficult to come back. So like I say, it'll be a relatively shallow dive. I'm good. Right, boys and girls, let's talk about the next dive, okay? This is Yen's map. Well done, Yen. Lost so much colour. You really picked a lot of beautiful colours. Looks really descriptive. A lot of colour. Really nice. So underwater, the dive site obviously is pink. Karang Makassar. Basically, Karang Makassar means Makassar Reef. It's also known as Manta Point. Most times when we come here, we see manta rays. However, if we don't see manta rays, in your logbooks, you're going to write Karang Makassar. If we see manta rays, you're going to write Manta Point. Fair enough? Okay, good. Okay, excellent, excellent. So basically, we're going to be starting the dive. Well, the actual reef itself, Karang Makassar Reef. If you look in the distance, maybe at the right height, there's a couple of sandy islands over there. One's got the flag in it. And over this side, you've got a mangrove where that little boat is parked over there. Basically, the dive site itself is about 2 kilometres long. So about 1.52 kilometres. Last time I measured it with my tape measure, it took 7 hours and 19 tanks to get through it. But I measured 2 kilometres. That's a joke, I was never there. Okay, now, it's a pretty simple dive site, guys. Basically, what it is, looks a bit like the surface of the moon. So what you've got down there is basically a bunch of like coral rubble. Now, in between the coral rubble, there's all these beautiful mini reefs. And some of these mini reefs, like we call them mini reefs, some of them are 100 meters long. So you've got various rocks and coral structures and like areas of coral. And what we do basically, guys, to give us the best chance to see manta rays, is rather than just going straight on a straight line with the current, we cross the current. So basically, either the current's pushing us like this, we're going to basically zigzag across the current, going between say 7 meters and possibly 15 meters, probably at the deepest point. Normally mantas are quite shallow creatures basically, but however these mini reefs are very beautiful and basically they act as a refuge for the fish in that area. So one mini reef, for example, you'll get like butterfly fish, angel fish, trumpet fish, trigger fish, groupers, snappers, like different kinds of puffer fish, damsels, wrasse, and also what's the other one that cleans the mantas? I've just lost my mind. Butterflies, yeah, butterflies, okay. So basically, guys, what happens is the manta rays hover over these cleaning stations, over these mini reefs, and what happens is the small fish go up to them and basically clean their skin. So what we do, guys, if we see a manta, obviously we don't want to disturb that process. So if a manta's being cleaned, we always want to make sure we give about 5 meters distance from the manta. However, guys, if the manta comes over to you and starts floating above your head and gives you the magic manta tap, that's not your fault, okay? So basically what we do, guys, is this. If your guide sees a manta, they're going to give the manta sign. They're going to do that sign basically. What they'll first do is they'll check below them. Now, like I said, in between the mini reefs, you've got a lot of coral rubble. So basically, it's possible to lay down on that coral rubble without damaging anything. But before you do that, check below you, make sure there's nothing like a scorpion fish sitting on the bottom, or maybe like a shrimp or something. And if you see a manta, what your guide will do, your guide will give the manta sign and basically will deflate the jacket by holding the hose as high as possible, will let the air out. And your guide will now go flat on the ground, so therefore if you're in the current, you now become more streamlined and it's easier to grab onto something and support yourself while enjoying the time with a manta. So whenever possible, guys, you like to get low. If you go the same level as a manta approaching it, it's going to freak out basically and leave. So the lower you get, the safer the manta feels basically, and it's easier to get closer to them. Now, if a manta comes at you straight out of the blue, what we don't do, because normally if they're swimming in the blue, it's because they're feeding. They're going into the current, we're going with the current. So basically, they'll have their mouth open. Now, if you keep going in a straight line, you'll go inside their mouth. Then you've got the job of being a dentist, okay? Don't do that. Basically, guys, what we do is we move to the side, because what we don't want to do is allow our bubbles to go straight into the manta's face, because again, some of mantas, sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. So chances are, if the bubble is going straight in its face, it's going to leave the area. So what we normally do again, if a manta comes by, guys, your guide will give the manta sign. Again, probably release all the air from the BCD, will sink nice and low, and if you're very lucky, the manta will come right over the top of you. It happens very often, but if you're on the bottom doing this, oh my god, there's a manta there. Manta's going to look at you and go, what the hell is that thing? And basically it's going to leave. So basically manta protocol is simple, guys. The calmer you are, and the shallower you breathe, the closer you're going to get to manta rays, basically. So the whole point is to stay calm. Now, if the current is strong, which it might be, your guide might suggest an area for you to grab onto. So there's a lot of things down there you can grab onto, guys. Even though we shouldn't grab coral, sometimes there's some very hard corals down there, and sometimes it is necessary to put a couple of fingers on something to support yourself. So this is why it's very important, guys, not to go in front of your guide. If you go in front of your guide, and of course your guide sees a manta and sees an opportunity to grab onto something, and you've already gone in front, you're going to miss that opportunity. So on this dive in particular, if the current is strong, give your guide a little bit of extra space. So make sure, of course, you can see them. The thing is this, your guide is going to be changing position all the time, zigzagging back and forth. So of course you need to give them a bit of distance to see and anticipate position change. And also, guys, pretty simple, whatever position your guide is in, copy their position. The easiest position for them, more than likely, will be the easiest position for you as well. So if you see your guide swimming a certain way, copy your guide's actions, you'll find the dive very easy. If you're above your guide, I guarantee you'll go faster. So the trick is in this dive, guys, is stay on the same level as your guide. If you stay on the same level, no problem, you'll go the same speed as your guide. If you're higher than your guide, you'll go past. Now, if you do go past, we forgive you, but we are going to ask you to please go back behind us. Don't fight to go back. Just simply put your legs against the current, just kick your legs gently and let your guide pass you naturally. If your guide has to keep rushing to pass you, the dive's going to be over very, very quickly, because at some point the reef does end. So what we want to do, guys, is not rush forward. We want to make sure we're going slowly, back and forth, zigzagging. Now, the way to zigzag, guys, you might sometimes feel like you're against the current. You're not. You're going with it. Take your time, don't fight. Get nice and low to the dead coral, just kick gently, follow your guide and just take it nice and easy, crossing between all the cleaning stations, and you'll find if you try to fight like you're going against the current, you're going to use your air very quickly. So basically, just do what you can. The current is going to control you no matter what, guys, so don't try and fight it. Just simply take your time, cross between the cleaning stations, and like I say, if we see the mantas, please observe your guide's actions and basically copy your guide. Also, guys, in this particular dive set, you can see a lot of other great stingrays. You can get really large, for example, marble rays. You can get other big kind of stingrays, for example, porcupine rays. You can get blue spotted stingrays. You can get eagle rays, and you can also get mobula rays as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can see in the blue. Look out as well for bamboo reef sharks, white tips and black tips. You can find Napoleon wrasse here. You can find pump-head parrotfish. You can find some really big snappers, really big groupers, giant sweet lips, for example, and then things like a lot of different kinds of fusiliers, basically, many kinds of surgeonfish, many kind of boxfish, and of course the bastard of the sea, the triggerfish. Again, triggerfish, guys, they can be a little bit aggressive, especially the Titan triggerfish. It's a large one with an ugly face and a bad temper. Basically, if you see your guide giving the triggerfish sign, your guide might say to you, problem. If it looks like it's acting aggressively, don't go, that's a nice fish, and swim over the top of it, because if you swim over the top of it, its attack zone is exactly above where you are. So basically, a triggerfish's attack zone, if it's got a nest, is like an upside down cone going up. So if you go over the top of a large Titan triggerfish and it is feeling territorial, it's going to come at you. Now, if it comes at you, guys, first thing is you've got two options. You can kick away like this. Don't go up, because it will keep coming at you. Isn't that right? Yeah, so don't go up, yeah? Go onto your back and kick away like this. Your guide, of course, will try to come in with his magic wand and go, Expelliarmus, okay? That's what we'll try to do, probably won't happen. However, kick on your back like this, it will attack your fins a couple of times. Once you're out of its zone, it should leave you alone. Option number 2 is punch it directly in the face. I have punched one and it feels awesome, okay? So try that if you like, but you're going to get some cut knuckles because it'll bite into your hand a little bit as well, okay? stopped drawing because the ball was getting wet, the pens weren't working anymore. But anyway, this is the dive we're going to be doing, right? Now basically, Siaba Kecil is on basically all over. It's the same island as what we've dived before. Sorry, not the same island. It's a small island opposite Siaba Besar. Now, generally speaking, it's a drift dive, generally speaking. However, the current should be a small form today, but you never really know. So obviously we'll go down and we'll of course adapt our dive to the conditions. Now, what's particularly special about this dive is this. On the very shallow area, you've got like a wonderful plateau around 5 or 6 meters with some amazing corals, like a lot of staghorn, you know, like maize corals, grain corals, huge table corals as well. And it's really colourful because it's quite shallow, so it gets a lot of light penetration as well. However, once you get off that plateau, it becomes pretty much a sloping reef. And down here, you've got a deep channel, which can go anywhere down to like 40 meters basically. But apart from that, the general topography of the dive is a sloping reef, about 45 degrees, let's say. And in various places, you've got these overhangs or ledges, which are really wonderful, and you can see a lot of cool things inside. Now, some of them, you can go right inside them, and some of them are just basically like a bit of a divot in the rock, if you know what I mean. But what you kind of see normally in here, sometimes you can see, for example, bamboo shacks resting on the bottom of the sand there. You'll see a lot of sweet lips inside there, angelfish and puffers as well. So what we tend to do on this dive is we zigzag and do a multi-level dive depending on where the ledges are. Some of the ledges are at 26 meters, some of the ledges are at 14 meters. So what we're doing is we'll be constantly changing depth basically, depending on where the ledges are. Sometimes you might have 3 ledges all in the same area, so basically you pick a ledge. However, if the current is mild, then we can really slow down and we can really spend time looking at the overhangs basically, rather than having just to go in one straight line picking the overhang that we choose.
Yeah, that would
so,
be lovely.
Yeah, that's
last time we just flew past them.
Yeah. Oh, you've been here before, yeah?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, right, fantastic, yeah. Well, it should be mild today. And also, guys, as well, if you want to look in a ledge, grab onto something. So if you get an opportunity, and of course you're passing an overhang, and you see something that's grabbable, grab onto it by all means. And of course then, if you pull yourself into the overhang, you'll then be protected from the currents. That's what we'll try and do. We'll try and access the overhangs wherever possible. Okay, now, as you're going along, at some point, the overhangs stop, and it becomes almost like a vertical wall. This is the point we have to become shallower. Now, again, depending on the current, if the current is significant, this is the point where we can get pushed down, basically. You can have quite a strong down current here. So normally happens at this point when the ledges stop and the sloping reef becomes a wall. This is where we'll go shallower, and then what we'll tend to do is a bit of zigzagging around here on this beautiful plateau at the end of the dive. That's where we'll basically end the dive there. I think last time you guys you did it on a rising tide, I'm pretty sure. So we're going to be on a falling tide. So we'll be finishing here basically on the protection of the island. So the current's going that way, we'll basically go round the corner and we'll finish the dive here. And basically on that plateau you can still get down to 15 meters and you get as shallow as 4 meters. Things you can possibly see here, look out for dugongs. Dugongs have been seen in this particular area. Yeah, we can see manta rays here, we can see eagle rays here, you've got giant trevallies, you've got bluefin trevallies, you've got emperor fish. Also, you can get massive schools of bump-head parrotfish as well. Big schools of massive monsters. I try to ride them whenever possible. It's like a green tractor. And also, look out for Napoleon wrasse as well. Look out for them too. And also, black-tip, white-tip and bamboo reef sharks can be cruising around. Especially on the top here as well, you often get bamboo sharks. Now often, in the cracks and things, even if you look in the smallest hole possible, it's very common you can see a bamboo shark also in that tiny hole. So sometimes you just sat there with their with their whiskers, just kind of pointing down, opening and closing their mouths, basically enjoying the current, okay? So it's a really, really interesting dive. Now it changes all the time. So initially you've got the sloping reef, then eventually it becomes like a dead coral area, then you've got the wall, and eventually you've got the plateau at the end, okay?
also like killing a lot of people. there's like, it's killing like a lot of smaller fish because the reefs aren't supporting the smaller fish, and so there's...
Okay, so basically guys, Pengah Kecil is a small island. Now, topography wise, it's for those of people who've dived Batu Bolong already, if I've had the chance, it's a very similar dive site to Batu Bolong, but actually most of us instructors prefer Pengah to Batu Bolong because for me it's a much bigger site, there's more going on, and it can have a lot of activity on this particular site. Now right now it should be a rising tide now. You never really know with Komodo, it can be very, very confusing. So probably what we're going to do is jump on the northern side basically of the actual dive site. Now it's a small island with a reef basically going down off an angle like this. You can get quite deep on this dive site, you know, it probably goes down to 40, 50 meters for example, but we're not going to go that deep of course. We might go maybe maximum 25, 26 meters, okay? Now, the nature of this particular dive site, guys, on this particular tide is this. What happens is the current hits the back of the small island. What happens is it splits around and pushes out either side. So what you actually end up having is two current lines, like little rivers basically, that will hit the back of the island and then go this way and go this way. And what happens also, the current leaves, comes back in again, and then creates two current lines pushing you basically towards the down current. So in the middle of the area here, where is generally where we actually jump in, this is the relaxing area. It's where you don't have to do a damn thing, just relax, have a cup of tea, slice of pizza, and basically just enjoy yourself. Now, as you start heading towards one side of Pengah, what happens is you'll start to feel the pull of the current, depending on the day of course. Normally this is what happens. The current will start to pull you and think, that's nice, I'm going to go that way. However, at some point, you have to turn around, because at some point what happens, when you reach the edge of the current line that comes back, the what we call back alley current, eventually meets the regular current and causes down current. So even though it feels nice going with the current, at some point you have to make the decision basically to stop and turn around. So what we do on this particular dive site is what we call a multi-level zigzag dive. So initially we'll jump in the middle, we'll go down to the deepest point first depending on your certification, and then basically we'll do a zigzag dive, getting gradually shallower, gradually shallower, gradually shallower. Now each time your guide's probably going to take you to the current line where the down current is. Down current's very easy to recognize, guys, because you'll generally see the fish either behaving erratically or facing the current. They're basically swimming up like this vertical. So if it's strong, the fish are facing vertical. The reason we go to the current line is because normally that's where the best activity is. You can see the giant trevallies, the big snappers, the emperor fish, and if you're lucky like yesterday, you can see eagle rays and other cool things here as well, and also sharks. So what we tend to do is cruise back and forth. Now it's quite a large dive site, so it will take quite a bit of time to reach the current line. And also as you change in depth, you see different things. As you go deeper, you've got more soft coral down there. And as you go shallower, you've got these really impressive, huge table corals, lots of staghorn, and it's a very, very impressive dive site. Probably the best coral of anywhere in the national park, actually, that we all agree anyway. So it's a really wonderful dive site. If possible, round the corner there's a plateau, a shallow plateau. Now, it may not be possible to get there depending on the current. However, if the current is mild, it might be possible to kick round the corner, and there's a shallow plateau of about 10 meters, and usually it's got quite a bit of current there. That's where the most activity is. But in that shallow plateau area, there's all these huge table corals, very low down, and often you can find juvenile white-tipped reef sharks. Very, very cute, and also very small. But depending on how strong the current is, you might be able to go there, it might be not possible to get there, but maybe your guide will have a go and see if the plateau is accessible. You'll normally see the white-tipped reef sharks swimming around, but they won't leave because their babies are there, so they'll swim around if you disturb them, but they'll keep close by. They'll keep cruising back, wait for you to leave basically, so they can go back and check on their children. So it's a very, very nice dive set in that way. Other things you can see as well, guys, look out for.
Yeah. You know, it got down to 25.
Where do you normally dive?
Last,
Oh, dry stuff. Yeah, I've got dry stuff back in the UK. It's awesome. It's
last
near
I just
people.
did it.
This cruise. But the choice was Java Tours.
Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So you told me that. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. Are we going to Manta Point? Yes.
So guys, the next dive site we will do is situated in Police Corner. So basically Police Corner is still the same island that we were diving before, Siaba Besar, but we are on the very southern tip at the moment. Okay? So it's named like this because some time ago a police boat sunk here. So it's not a wreck dive, it's just like they recovered the boat already, but that's the story. So this is how it looks like. At the very end of this island we have a shallow top reef that's around 5 meters from the surface, not very wide, maybe 10-15 meters wide, and then we have a sloping reef around 45 degrees angle, and the more you go to the south tip, the more it becomes a wall. Okay? In this sloping reef we have a big area that is a big overhang. Maybe some time ago it was a sloping reef and then it collapsed, created an overhang. So in the bottom of the overhang we have all these big boulders, big rocks here and there. So the top of this overhang is around 13 meters, and inside, if you go inside and you get to the bottom, you'll be around 25 meters. However, still the open water divers can go in this first overhang. It's a lot of things to see in here. After this overhang, as you go more to the south, it becomes a wall, and then we have another overhang around 28 meters, and then after this one we have another overhang around 30 meters. That's the depth of the overhang, which means that if you go underneath, you're slightly deeper. Okay? And on the top of these is always the sloping reef. The more south you go, the more it becomes a wall. It's quite a deep dive site here, and it's completely open to the blue. So at the moment the current is a slack tide, just the start of rising tide. Okay? When it's falling tide, it's going this way. When it's rising tide, it goes this way. So it's basically just the moment where the current change from falling tide to rising tide. So this is actually a good moment to dive this dive site. However, we do not want to wait until it picks up too much on the rising tide, because otherwise we'll not be able to visit everything of the overhangs. But we'll be able to visit all the sloping reef that goes next to it here. So the plan of the dive basically is to jump a little bit over this overhang here, a little bit more to the south as the current is slightly going this way already, to go down inside the first overhang, and the plan is to go to the deepest point first. So for the advanced divers, as you get to the first overhang, you will not spend too much time in there, you just go passing through. Going through here, along the wall here, underneath the first overhang, the second overhang, underneath the third overhang. and then make your way back towards the shallower areas until you get out of the overhang on the sloping reef. Okay? Of course, this plan will depend on the current down there. The plan is to go down there, but as we reach the first one, we will check the current if it's possible to go to the second one, and then from there check the current if it's possible to go to the third one. Okay? What I like to do is go through the first one, underneath the second one, underneath the third one, over the third one, back underneath the second one, along the wall, spend some time in the big one here, and then after this you will come back from this overhang. Has kind of a crack at the highest point. What's nice to do is to come out from this crack and go over the overhang here on the sloping reef. Why is that? It's because all the time that you spend breathing underneath this overhang here, all the air, all the bubbles are accumulating in the top, and actually they go through the edge, the ceiling of the overhang. So when you go over here, it's like a lot of bubbles coming out of the ground. It's really nice. It's like raining bubbles but upside down. So it's a pretty cool thing to go through, spending some time here and then up, going over with the current, ending up the dive on the sloping reef, starting by this rainy bubble upside down and making our way shallower, 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 around 10 meters, drifting slowly, slowly all along this sloping reef, which is beautiful. All the sloping reef has really nice coral, hard and soft corals, very rich, very diverse, so quite healthy. Just beware, there is this coral that looks like an alga. It's called a hydroid. These things sting, and we have quite a little bit of them. So if you stay close to the bottom, be careful where you put your hands and things like that, because if it stings you, it might hurt on the moment, then you think it's fine, but then in the next days it will become blisters and it's very uncomfortable. Scratching, itching, all that. Okay, so this is for the plan of the dive. Any questions about the plan?
thank you.
How long have you been working on the Maldives for?
Maldives? 7 months. Yeah. And then it's like, you know, good life, good, but to live there on a small island, there is no life. I mean, yeah, you just work and then that's it.
Right. So Tatawa comes from the name Ketawa, which means big laugh or big smile. So this is like the small smile, but it's still a beautiful dive, don't worry. This is more or less how it looks like. So we have the small island. This is the western side, which is the one that is next to us. We have on the northern and the southern side a plateau that extends a little bit. It's around 5 to 10 meters. It goes a bit out in the north and the south. On the west side we have a kind of a very small plateau. It's almost no plateau. That's around 5 meters. Then it drops down on a sloping reef. This sloping reef is composed of many big boulders here and there. It's really interesting topography. These big boulders go down to around 20 meters and then 25 and even 30, and they land on a general big slope that is on a very gentle slope, but yeah, still a slope going this way. So after these big boulders, if you go a bit more to the south, it's just a sloping reef, and then the plateau around here is really nice, and this plateau here is probably my favorite part of the dive. In the middle of this boulders, we have around 15 meters swim through. It's actually more like an overhang, but halfway the overhang it's a bit closed, so you come from one end and you go out from the other one, so that we can consider it like a swim through. So the current at the moment is the end of falling tide, start to rise, pretty much the same conditions that we had on the last dive. Basically the current is ending falling and will start to rise. Okay, so the plan of the dive is to start on the northern side right here, not too far out, because if the current has already changed we don't want to be too much out, otherwise we have to kick a bit against the current. And the plan is to go along reef on the left side, going, exploring until we reach this overhang. When we reach this overhang, if the current is not too much rising already, we can continue a little bit away here to then come back a bit shallower and end the dive on this northern plateau. Okay? So when we do that, if the current is a little bit rising already, we need to play with these boulders to make our way to the overhang. Okay, so if you see a big rock in front of you, what you want to do is to try to hide from the current behind it, and then once you reach there, you see another rock, you're gonna pass the corner and hide behind that rock to go further and further and further. Okay, this is the best way to navigate the dive site. If the current is still slightly falling, it will be very easy to go here. However, know that if we go here still falling and your guide is taking a little bit of he's not going very slow basically, make sure that you follow him, because that might mean that the current is changing and it's for you not to be too much against the current. So he might want to go a little bit faster on the way in and take your time as you come back, so that you don't go too much against the current. Okay? So otherwise it's possible to take our time as we go there, but then we have to play with these boulders here and there to make our way here to this overhang. There are some other overhangs a little bit deeper here, around 25 meters. Sometimes what we will do is that we will go reef on the left, staying a bit deeper, going underneath these overhangs, and then coming back, going through this overhang here and making our way to the north. Or, depending on your air consumption and your knots of limits, you might not be able to go here, but it doesn't matter, all the rest of the dive site is beautiful. Especially when we're going to do the safety stop in this northern area here, we have this plateau to actually explore a little bit, doing a zigzag and circle up this area. We have a lot of fusiliers, very nice coral plateau, big table corals, soft corals as well. lots of marine life, so it's a really cool place to do the safety stuff. Alright guys, do you have any questions about the plan?
No.
Okay.
Labuan Bajo?
Go, yeah?
Well, I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Phil. Thank you for today.
Welcome.